poderosas como tú, viendo toda esta alegría, Rosario, ¿cómo te sientes de ser homenajeada por el festival como una de las mujeres pioneras en esta causa de las mujeres latinas, abriendo brecha desde hace varios años ya?
About talk. Okay.
Yes, you could speak in
English. Is that okay? So I'm here with my mom. I'm sadly only able to do the red carpet because I have a screening right now, actually, of a documentary that I'm executive producing called Below the Belt. That's about endometriosis, which I found out I had earlier this year, and which is as prevalent as diabetes, but gets a negligible amount of research and funding. And this is something that affects women everywhere, and disproportionately women of color really don't get diagnosed properly. I'd been going to different doctors for years talking about the problems that I was having, and it didn't get diagnosed. I was getting my fibroid surgery taken care of, and that's when they found it and told me. So for me, it's like the festival like this that's highlighting and supporting and being behind Latinas and different filmmakers and storytellers, knowing that when we're misrepresented and we're not shown, we're not behind and in front of the camera, our stories aren't shared as women, as people of color, as diverse people with stories and backgrounds and that don't normally get to be protagonists in stories. It's just incredibly important to have festivals like this, or to be able to be a part of documentaries like I'm also premiering tonight, which is just crazy they're happening at the same time, but that support people and give people access to stories that heal, help, educate, and spaces like this that help people to network so they can have access and continue to build forward, because I've been helped and supported so many different ways. So that's what's been wonderful for me, to be able to use my privilege, my access, the opportunities I have to put microphones in the faces of people I grew up around who supported me. And that's what we get to be a part of tonight. And
I have one question for you.
Sorry, that was a super long answer.
And I saw you hugging Bambi. That was so beautiful.
Yeah, Bambi. I've worked with Bambi multiple times. I first met Bambi at City Hall, not too far from here. And she was organizing with a bunch of people I organized with, and they were stopping the 2 prisons that were coming here. It was a major billions of dollars that were being spent. They were successful. They had brought out double beds that were because the prison that they were creating was corresponding to the numbers they were doing, going, it's more than likely projected in the future that we're going to expect this many prisoners. And it's like, well, if you have this data and research that you know this crimes are going to happen and these vulnerable communities are going to end up incarcerated for it, why don't we take that money instead and prevent that and create programs and things within the community that will prevent that from happening, as opposed to getting ready to bed them. And this is what that looks like, and the numbers of it, and they put the beds out all in the whole, so it was like using art and activism and visual, so it stopped it. It didn't end up happening. So that's where I first met her. And then we've collaborated on The Assembly, something I produced with Free Speech Television. She asked me to come on board on La Quinceañera. I got to be interviewed for that and be an executive producer on it. And that was the final film last year at this festival. And she's being honored today. And at this festival as well. And it's just, I'm a huge fan of her work. I've learned so much from her. I drink a glass of water. I literally think about Bambi pretty much every morning, because she's like, have that glass of water right next to your bed. So that's the first thing you do, because you got to hydrate your body. Like, we have these, she's all about self-care. When you see her at her La Quinceañera, the people who come up to her and I'm alive because of you, the support that you give me, she checks in once a week, maybe every 2-3 weeks, the latest. She'll just text and be like, you are blessed, you are loved, you are needed, I support you. And we just give each other affirmations. I'm telling you, she's just so special and such a fighter. And she does it with style and sexiness, so I'm just a huge fan of hers. And I'm inspired by her. And
what's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm going to run to go to this premiere. So we have our Q&A for that. I'm finishing up Ahsoka right now. And then Haunted Mansion's coming out next year. And I'm producing a bunch of projects next year. And one of the ones I'm really excited about, I came on board, Rain Valdez. I met through my friend Silas Howard. And she wrote this script that was picked by GLAAD for 2022 as a great script. It's a rom-com. And so I'm helping her to produce it. We just released a bunch of the cast that we brought on board. So I'm going to be in the rom-com business. I'm so excited. I love rom-coms. And she's going to write, she wrote it, she co-wrote it, and she's directing it and starring in it. So I'm excited about that. That's the thing. So if anyone wants to give us some money for that and support us in making that, we are
giving you some projects.
We are giving you the opportunity to join us now.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. And also, I mean, the question I wanted to actually ask you was like back to what you went through earlier this year. Has that given you a new platform for you to advocate on health, public health? Or do you feel like that's just giving you more ammunition to be able to shed light on a lot of these issues that are still really underrepresented?
I mean, I didn't know about it. I didn't understand what I was going through. So for me, I just think, Edgardo, how I know about it is actually my friend Edgardo, who wrote La Borinqueña. I met him at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. He came up to me. He was like, I have a Afro-Latina superhero you got to know about. I was like, come on board. Let's talk to this float. And we've collaborated multiple times, Reconstruction, PSAs for voting with Voto Latino. We have Studio 189 and did a whole cover and a whole series because the character of La Borinqueña is really about the environment and protection and helping Puerto Rico. And we've been using fundraising through the sales of the books to do hurricane relief. I mean, he's really special and showing what you can do with comics. Again, it's all these different people who are using creativity and art to storytell and also generate support. Like it's being active. I have a series right now. We just dropped our first episode. BuzzFeed put it out. It's with Offsides Productions, a bunch of organizers out of Oakland that I work with. It's called Normal Ain't Normal because everyone keeps being like, oh, after COVID, let's get back to normal. Well, what was normal got us here in the first place. People are dealing with housing issues, lack of access to healthcare. We did a series. The first episode that just dropped is about healthcare. We did it in collaboration with National Nurses United. And are just bringing attention to these issues and solutions. And I think that's the next phase. We're seeing a lot more representation behind the camera, in front of the camera. Like it doesn't stop us from necessitating nights like this and festivals like this at this moment, but we are definitely seeing a pushback. And that's coming from audiences as well. But it's got to be more than just the storytelling and the access. It's also got to be active. It's got to generate momentum to make differences. We can't all just say we have essential workers and go and clap for them at 7 p.m. and feel good about ourselves. It's not just the awareness. It has to turn into something that's active. We have an election that's coming up and we need to be showing up for our brothers and sisters out there across this nation who need to be, who don't always have a voice, and who are literally suffering. So, we can't just, once you know that, you can't unknow it. And that is what we're here to continue to just educate people, inform people, make them aware, and then push them, demands of them to be active, because that's what's necessary.
Yeah. And we always ask all of our folks, what does cultura mean to you? And if you don't mind,
culture?
Tell us
I'm going to say cultura means to me, I'm going to talk about Fabiana Rodriguez. She's an amazing artist out of Oakland. And she does these incredible dissertations and decks and things on exactly this. And she says culture precedes... No worries. I get it. I'm Latina. We talk like this.
Yeah, good.
Culture precedes policy. If you want to make a difference, you have to affect the culture. Because the reason why these systemic problems are happening is because we've normalized it. We've made it okay. We've made people comfortable in those things, and we got to disrupt that. And the way you do that is by reclaiming the narrative. And so when you do that and you open up people's eyes to perspectives and ideas that they wouldn't have otherwise maybe experienced because they didn't grow up there, they weren't introduced to that person, they hadn't had that experience with their health care until maybe just now. Like we all just went through, they maybe didn't believe that things could change, but the world just pivoted on a dime because of COVID. So now their excuse of it's just the way that it is and nothing can change, we all know deeply that that's not true, that we can make a real pivot and change, and why not do it with intention and consciousness? And that's what's necessary right now. So I feel like that's what's happening. So culture precedes policy. So let's shift the culture, yo.
Yes.
And let's change some of these policies.
Thank you so much.